Hi, I'm Jamie Hilton of the 12-meter Yacht Club Newport Station, here today with another in our series of interviews of 12-meter owners and sailors in the Newport fleet. So Ralph, why don't you tell us how you got involved in sailing?
Well, I first got involved with Charlie Dana in 1998, I think, when there was a Save the Bay Regatta, and Charlie invited, Charlie and Jimmy Goulman actually invited Alexander and I to sail aboard Weatherly. And it was the first time that we'd ever done a 12-meter regatta, and the first time I'd sort of participated in any event in Newport, certainly. And we just had a great time. It was a fun event. It was a fun boat to sail on, and that was the beginning of our sort of 12-meter experience. Because after that, Jimmy then organized Columbia. First, there was an attempt to get Intrepid, and when that didn't work, we settled on Columbia and negotiated an agreement with the then owner to sail her over in the Jubilee, which was in 2001. So, and that sort of began our whole experience with 12-meter sailing.
The way I got started in this, well, actually I grew up on Long Island Sound, and while many of my friends, or some of my friends, were actually out competing in the America's Cup and winning, I was water skiing. So I'm the new kid on the block as it relates to the 12 meters. When I got re-engaged with my friends in the 12-meter sport was when I bought a home in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and I was invited to participate in the Courageous Syndicate with Ralph and others, and did that for a little bit and got so involved in this. Both Ralph and I found ourselves involved with the USA 61. So at one point, Ralph and I were members of two syndicates. And it has really sort of taken a life of its own. It's an athletic event. It's got a lot of camaraderie involved in it. And it's turned out to be, later in life, a great place to spend time. Half the reason I do this, besides being with friends, probably three components. One is the position that I find myself most in involves a lot of endurance, a lot of strength, moving around the deck. So there's an athletic aspect to it. The second is, being with people who you enjoy being with. And the third is winning, and that's sort of an up and down affair. But we always strive to be the first across the finish line.
Firstly, I think it is about being with friends on a boat and having the great aspect of having a syndicate where you're not the only person involved in the task at hand, sailing the boat, is that you've got 5 or 6 other friends that you're doing it with, so that you're sharing the cost, but you're also sharing the experience, which is a lot more fun than if it's just your own. So throughout in Columbia or Courageous or US 61, it's always been with a group of friends who, over the years, you've gotten to know better. You've had a lot of fun moments on it. You've won races, you've lost races, you've laughed, you've cried, we've come very close to winning a number of times, and we have won some really great events. We've won the North American several times. There is also an intellectual component to try and understand why you do better than you in some days, and other days you don't. I mean, sailing is a complex sport, understanding why you win or lose, both in terms of on the course, but also the boats are, highly complex in terms of the different variables that you can adjust to see where you might make it faster, or, always make it faster, but adjust whether it's in the sail or the length of the boom, or, whatever it is.
Ralph hits on a very interesting aspect of the intellectual side of this. Having an engineering background, I think of when I first got on the boat, this is nothing more than a physics table. It's all it is forces and mass and friction and momentum. And so when you start to think, well, gosh, this is really pretty simple, the complexity of it is enormous. And I think that one of the things that I've observed over time is that given its complexity, one of the things that I think that we need to spend as much time trying to harness are the electronics. We sail with a number of people who are very intuitive. They've won America's Cups in the past, and I think that there's a wonderful confluence of technology and experience and intuition that's a part of winning.
The first time I sailed on a 12-meter was on Columbia in Newport. A couple of friends invited me to come along on a benefit sail, and we went out, sailed with Olin Stevens was on board, to my surprise, the Frank Lloyd Wright of boat design, and
You being an architect, that would be a,
that was huge. That was huge. And we went out and went sailing on Columbia, and I just had a fantastic time. Andy McGowan was on board as well. He taught me a whole lot. So we just had a great time. From Columbia, I went over and spent a week sailing with the boys on Columbia over in Europe. Jimmy Goulman and Ralph Isham and a bunch of other sailors, friends, had put together a charter over there for the America's Cup Jubilee, and I joined them for a week after that in Mediterranean. And then we had so much fun, we said, well, geez, why don't we find another boat, because Columbia was no longer available after that. And one of us dug up Courageous. She wasn't able to make it over to the Jubilee. And let's see, Craig Millard, I think, said, let's do this. And he put together the boat, and we all pitched in, and we've been sailing together for the last 15 years ever since.
I would offer that, just as I describe myself as the newcomer, you don't have to be an inveterate sailor in order to get involved in the sport, and it can be just as rewarding, I think, for somebody who wants to sail with a group of people that he considers to be friends. There are plenty of people who are always willing to be helpful, to form a syndicate, to man the boat, and I think it's not may seem daunting, but it truly shouldn't seem daunting in order to get involved.
For what we do, if you want to be part of a syndicate and be with friends and be on the water and be in a pretty competitive environment among some very good sailors, I agree with Ward. You don't have to be an A sailor. You can sort of learn you can learn in each position and take it to the next level, which a lot of us have done.
Jimmy and Ralph and everyone agreed from the very get-go that we wanted to make this a team activity, and sailing is a team activity. It's all about the sum of the parts being the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. And so we decided to continue that as the at every level, both on the water and off the water. So we have a group of friends who've been organizing the boat off the water as well, and it's been a great success from my point of view, and I think everyone else's. We've taken a very much of a team approach.
tell me about your most memorable experience in racing or sailing on Courageous in the 15 years or so you've been on board.
Well, on Courageous, I think having, let's see, Gary Jobson on board one time, and I'd say it's a series of events. Every time we've been fortunate to have people like Gary and Robbie Doyle, these sailing greats who come back on the boat, who sailed back in the America's Cup days, to see their joy when they get back on this boat again and say, I can't believe I'm on this boat that's 35 or 40 years old and it's still in great shape. In fact, it's in better shape than when we raced it during the America's Cup. They love it. They just have so much fun. They light up, and I think 12 meters, you have 12 people, each of whom play really important roles on the boat. They may be technically more sophisticated. Some may be more sophisticated than others, like the helmsman, tactician. But if we don't all work together, then we're going to make mistakes, and you win by making fewer mistakes, in my opinion. And so I think that's what's unique about the experience. Richie Sayre called it one time like a slow motion dance, and it really is like that. I think everything has to happen at the exact right time. And as long as you think it through, it all comes together. And so I love it. I go out there, I learn something new every time I go sailing. It may not be on the technical side, but it may be about communication or just how important preparation is. Those are all life lessons that I continue to learn every time I go out sailing. What we're looking forward to now is bringing on a whole new generation of sailors who can enjoy it just as much as we've enjoyed it.